everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the LongBox Paradox. We actually have a theme this week, which for Tessa and I to ever have like actual plans or like a loose framework is always great. I'm Dan, and as always, joined by the lovely comic shop gremlin, Tessa, now in the Eastern time zone. And this episode, we are joined by Bryan from Marvel by the Month, a podcast about Marvel by the Month. Why don't you explain your show?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. Marvel by the Month. It does exactly what it says on the box. We started with talking about the comics that came out in August of 1961. There was one Marvel Universe comic. It was Fantastic Four #1. And then since then, every episode we've done has covered the next month of comics. And we're up to like January 1974 now. So yeah, we've done like over 200 episodes of it, and they keep publishing more comics every month. And now it's just like, it's a grudge match between us and 70s Marvel. It's like neither one of us is going to give in.
My favorite years of Marvel, because the wave of horror started, and then the batshit sci-fi stuff with Jim Starlin and
1968 for me. That's my jam. When they get the new picture rights, swoon.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff. It's funny, like we were just talking about this the other day, that I had it in my head that, basically Kirby leaves Marvel in 1970, 1971, and then nothing really happens until 1975, when, Giant Size X-Men #1 comes out. Turns out the first half of the 70s is all sorts of crazy, weird, good stuff. The monsters are showing up. Luke Cage is like a shockingly great book. Like almost every issue we have loved.
Sweet Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, just the issues where he like chases Dr. Doom back to Latveria for $200, like amazing stuff. So yeah, we're loving it, and I do it with my co-host Rob Milne and Jamie Wenger. And we get a lot of great guests on, and it's a ton of fun.
So Tessa, before you came on, Bryan and I were talking about the weird part of the 70s where we started getting the magazine-sized editions. Do you get a lot into your shop? Because we were talking about the zombie book all of a sudden started like going up, especially the magazine size, and then the Master of Kung Fu one started going up.
It's not that we get them in so often, it's just that they don't sell as fast as regular comics, so that we always have them. But we get them in like pretty often, just not as often as regular comics. They are unfortunately more victim to the just getting tossed thing than your average size comic book.
So when we were doing the Zoom discussion, it came up about the Romnibus. And Bryan had just sent all of his copies in to have bound into a leather-bound edition.
I love bound comics. I think they're fascinating.
Oh yeah, they're terrific. But I sent off my friend Douglas helped me assemble a full ROM collection. I'm having it bound into 4 hardcover volumes right now, and of course, 2 months after I send them off to get bound, Marvel's like, guess what? For the first time ever, we're reprinting ROM. Like, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I was specifically buying them because I was like, I'll get the single issues because you can't read them digitally anywhere.
Yeah.
They're never going to reprint it in any way because I don't have the rights, so I guess I'll just get all the single issues. And I am still missing 2 issues.
Oh, man.
Like, as soon as I'm missing 2 issues, they're like, you know what we should do?
Yeah.
Is it the summer special? Because I did not know there was a summer special that existed. There is a summer special.
No, I have the annuals. I have the specials, all that stuff. I'm missing, it's either 7 and 8 or 8 and 9. I forget. But
the cheapest ones.
Yeah, I just never see them. And when I do, they're like $20. I'm like, well, at that point, I'm not going to get them. And it's just I'm being dumb. It's my own fault. They're
usually like $4.
And buy them, but I like digging at cons and shops and stuff.
I will say, like, even though, they're putting out a really nice omnibus, which of course I'm also going to buy. But that omnibus is not going to smell like 40-year-old comics. And it's not going to have ads for switchblades and itching powder. So I'm going to be very excited.
Also, the colors. They will recolor. They always will.
Extremely passionate about is the coloring in comics, and about how when they reprint them, they almost never reprint them correctly because they're reprinting them on stark glossy white paper, and that's never how it was intended. So have you read the classic ROM run yet?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That book has amazing art. Literally as soon as you open the first page of the first issue, like, it is so much better than it has any rights to be.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Mantlow's writing is so good, and how it branches off into like other parts of like the X universe.
Yeah,
kind of like Dracula was in the X-Men world, and then like ended up having a feud with Doctor Strange, where Doctor Strange said, "Fuck it, I'm killing all the vampires."
Yep.
Great run.
I love how he finds the way to like work it into his other runs, which have no business being together, like Rom and like it does not make sense at all. But I'm here for it. He's like, I'm writing these, so they're gonna team up. Like, okay, bud.
Oh, and like Rom was a major part of Rick Jones's career, like as a superhero sidekick, and it's just like there's this whole chunk of Rick Jones's life that they can't really talk about, but Peter David would keep like sneaking little allusions to it into his run, and it was hilarious. So
I love all the things they had to like pretend didn't exist in the last like 2 decades or so, where they would just be like, yeah, we just can't talk about that.
Yeah. Remember that time Spider-Man met the Transformers? No, you don't. Yeah. That never happened.
The Micronauts, Godzilla versus the Shogun Warriors.
Yep.
There's this amazing and extremely specific website that is all about Rom, and it has a complete reading list of everything Rom. So it's either everything he's actually been in, and it also includes anytime he's referenced, anytime the Space Knights are referenced.
Wow.
I literally, if you look up Rom reading order, you'll see all of it. So you can see all of his tie-ins. And like, he only has a few main ones, but his story is worked into like a bunch of random things where it's like, all right, well, now whenever we talk about like Rick Jones or like Power Man, it's just like, okay, cool. We're just gonna surpass this.
When the Romnibus comes out, we're gonna do a live like reading group.
Oh yeah.
So like we might have to have your group on with us to.
Oh, that would be a blast. Yes, absolutely.
Maybe that'll be my first like book club reading for my Discord. Be like, hey everyone, let's read Rom together.
Bill Mantlo is so like batshit crazy during those days with the stuff he was writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Howard the Duck writer.
Oh, Gerber, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Did Bill do the classic alcoholism Iron Man issue?
That was Denny O'Neil.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who it was very personal because my books were intertwined there.
Denny O'Neil was an alcoholic.
I believe. Yep. Yeah, that was a thing that he got a handle on, and he did. So good on him.
That was my first graded book.
Oh, nice.
Everybody else was chasing the first Thanos. You were chasing the drunk Iron Man.
Look, it's a classic cover, all right?
Yeah.
Always go where everybody's not going.
Yep. You got to zig with their zagging.
Yep. So the theme of this episode is the books that impacted us. It could be something that changed our mindset. It could have been what got us reading. It could have made us cry. And there's a couple of books for that on my list. So I'll start it out with one that this probably was one of when I first started reading Marvel Comics. Helped me out incredibly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the series Marvel Saga, which during the 80s, it literally went from the beginning of Marvel right up to about the 70s and stopped. But it gave you, it told you all the issues that all these things happened. And it just filled in the blanks for a new reader like myself, because I started reading in like 85.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you had that followed up by the Encyclopedia Handbook of the Marvel Universe, which also like gave you everything. So like as a new reader, those were so important to my nerddom.
Oh, absolutely.
I gotta say, when I gave you the topic this time of books that have impacted you, I did not expect you to be like, the handbook.
No.
The textbook for comics? Yes, that one.
I devoured everything because I was like, well, I need to know what issues I need to buy.
Yep. Yeah, I think, I think anyone who's ever really gotten into Marvel Comics, I think, has this experience where, and my friend Douglas Wolk talks about this in his book, All of the Marvels, where the point is not to do what, idiots like me are doing with their podcast and start at the very beginning and read every single issue all the way through. That is a recipe for insanity.
And that's not how comics are like designed to be digested.
Not at all.
It's pick up random issue 32 on the shelf and go for it.
Yes. Get dropped into the middle of this thing, be confused about everything, and then gradually, and like say, okay, I'm interested in figuring out what that's all about, and then like go down that path until you understand that, and that leads you, down different rabbit holes and stuff, and that's kind of the cool thing about Marvel, technically being one giant story. is that you can always be following those little paths.
And then you get to gatekeep everyone else for not obviously knowing.
Yeah, right.
Else, of course.
Well, Marvel also used to put those little footnotes at the bottom of the page saying, "Hey, if you missed this, check out this issue," which fed into my back issue hunting.
Yep.
Comics still do that. I find that so fun. I love editor's notes. I wish I could be that person. That would be my dream job.
What about you, Bryan?
Well, I mean, talking about formative, early Marvel comics. I started out as an Avengers kid. I started probably reading Marvel right around the same time that you did, Dan. And the series that really got me hooked was when Roger Stern was writing the Avengers, and his the Under Siege storyline with the Masters of Evil taking over Avengers Mansion. And it was the first big Avengers storyline that I ever remembered, and it was just like,
Hercules got beaten to a coma.
Hercules gets beaten to a coma.
Jarvis too.
Jarvis gets, I think he gets temporarily blinded one eye. He gets beaten so badly. Captain America is tied to a chair while they're dismantling his footlocker full of memories. He's got an autographed baseball by Babe Ruth and they shred it, and the only picture he's got of his mother, and they just tear it in half, and just putting you through the ringer.
There is an issue that follows that up that was one of the first Avengers issues I bought. It was the Aftermath, where it was Jarvis at the hospital trying to decide whether he's going to stay, and he's going through the whole history of the Avengers.
Yes.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yep. Yeah. But that was also one of those issues that was talking about following those breadcrumbs. It's it tells the story of how Vision and the Scarlet Witch fell in love. It talks about how Hawkeye and Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch and Captain America became the first new Avengers after the original Avengers quit. And all this
beating his wife.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it introduces you to all these pivotal Avengers moments, and it's basically Roger Stern taking you by the hand and saying, these are the things that mattered to this book and these characters. And it's just awesome. It's
my first introduction to Namor in that series right after that, because he joins and starts screaming Imperious Rex. He's married to Marina from Alpha Flight.
Yep.
Where she turns into a sea serpent.
Oh, yeah, that didn't end well.
No.
Yeah. Yep. I think he had to stab her with a Black Knight's sword or something like that. Yeah. Wild stuff.
How about you, Tessa?
Well, since I do see my dad's watching, I am going to say that Bryan and I were discussing Calvin and Hobbes as an honorable mention. Not actually comics, but comic strip. And the one that comes to my mind is the one where Calvin finds a baby raccoon, and they try to nurse it back to health and keep it in a little box. But when he wakes up in his morning, his mom tries to basically tell this 6-year-old about what death is and that he didn't make it or whatever. And the kid's crying, and the mom's crying, and the dad's crying, and the tiger's crying, and everyone's crying over a raccoon. But on a happier note, also speaking of my dad, I didn't get into comics as a kid. I was always interested in them, but girls don't read comics. But I was at an antique shop and they had comics for $1, so I asked my dad for $2. And I grabbed these 2 issues of The Flash, and they were my first comics ever. So they have impacted my life because they started everything for me, and I have them in clear boards, fancy bags, so they got the good treatment, all my keys, because they are keys to me. And they're oh man, if I run out in a fire, I'm grabbing my pricey books, and I'm grabbing these guys, because without these guys, I would not be anywhere here. So
that's fantastic.
So,
I am just starting a reread of the Mark Waid run on Flash, and it holds up really nicely. Yeah,
I'm almost done with the Williamson run. 2 weeks ago, I decided to just finish through all that, and I'm almost done, because Spurrier is going to be the new writer, and he's one of my favorite writers. And so now it's kind of gotten me on this thing where, oh man, now I'm kind of interested in the Flash, because I read those 2 issues way too many times, as you always do with your very first comics. Yep. But other than that, I never read a lot of Flash. I've read Flashpoint and a few other things, but never an ongoing. So reading all of Williamson, and I'm wow, I guess I'll go back to the 80s run, 87 or whatever it is, and just go through all that, because that seems to be the beloved thing.
Yeah. Josh Williamson's run is probably, in my opinion, the 3rd greatest run on Flash.
What are your 1 and 2?
Jeff Johns.
So Waid, The longevity on it alone was fantastic. And also, like, it's a comic nerds run.
Yeah.
Jeff Johns was really good. But what I love about Williamson, he doesn't touch on any of the other shit. He builds his own
I do like
mythos.
that about him in general. I like that he also, as a horror writer, brings more like spooky villains.
His reinvention of the turtle.
Oh yeah, and I like his new stuff too. I like blood work and stuff.
Yeah, I like that he brought his own flavor to it, and I think as some creators, they tend to homage or ape other creators that they idolize, and he didn't. He went like balls deep with what he wanted to do, and I'm a huge Josh Williamson fan. Either way, he's reading Nailbiter, Ghosted, and some of his other series. Like, he's always like interacted with me online, sent me books, so like he'll always have a special spot in my heart.
Oh, very cool.
Not that I'm like disappointed is too strong of a word, because I actually really like that they don't use the speed villains, because I feel like they get used too much in anything Flash. Like, if it's Flash, then it's cool. It's just reverse Flash. It's just zoom and reverse Flash and all that stuff. But I do feel like with a horror writer, I was hoping that he would just make those guys terrifying, because they should be terrifying. Like, I don't think people realize how overpowered speed is. Like, he can vibrate through you. Like, he could just enter your body and like kill you in a second. Like, there are just so many ways that like this would be unstoppable in any way, shape, and form. But yeah, I do really like his like creepy characters.
He could be in the same room with you and just be like rearranging things, just like moving things a little bit.
Like,
like just not even hurting you, but just like you look away and then like all of a sudden, you know, the vase on the table has moved like 6 inches to the right, and you know that it was just like slowly driving you crazy. Like,
there was an argument, this was a few months ago, but it was all over, I want to say TikTok, where people were like, haha, who would win, Spider-Man or the Flash? And everyone was saying Spider-Man, and I'm like, Spider-Man's cool and all.
Yeah.
You guys don't understand. This is like the strongest power. Like, if you're not like Superman, this is...
I mean, his spider sense might like help him detect a little bit, but like he literally moves almost.
He can go through time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's a little tricky for Spidey to overcome, unfortunately. But yep.
So another book that impacted me, and we kind of talked about this, where there's books on the rack that you just grab and you don't know shit about, and you just dive into it. And so my first Uncanny X-Men book was issue 207, which was right after the Barry Windsor Smith Lady Deathstrike one, and Wolverine's recovering from it, and the cover is him with his claws shredding the cover.
Yes.
I don't know a fucking thing that's going on. They're living in the sewer with the Morlocks. My only introduction to the X-Men was Spider-Man His Amazing Friends, where Wolverine is talking like Crocodile Dundee. He's Australia. He's like, oh, put another shrimp on the Barbie. So then I find out he's Canadian. And it was one of those things, there's so much going on in the book, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. But and it's John Romita Jr. doing the art, and I'm confused. And I stuck with it because we were doing laundry. We didn't have our own washing machine or anything. So we're at the laundromat, and there was a convenience store at the end. My mom's just like, I'm going to get you something to read just to shut you up and like get you off my back. So I started reading it, and unbeknownst to her, she started a whole addiction. So like I was a Marvel zombie, but I always loved Batman. So then I started reading Batman, and it was a whole ordeal. But so this book was the first one I ever bought, like with, you know, my own money, pretty much. Like it was the first, like holding it in my hand. And then like, I still have my old beat up copy 30 something years later. So that was my first book, and the impact of it was it never ended.
Yeah. Do you think that X-Men might be like the most aggressively difficult series to get into?
Legion of Superheroes.
Legion of Superheroes also is way up there. Yeah, there's so much lore there. But like, like I feel like X-Men
has the amount of issues to fight it. Because at least Legion of Superheroes is like, oh yeah, it's kind of confusing, but like, sure, I'm gonna guess under 200 issues. Well,
yeah.
here's 1,000 probably.
Right, between all the different series and everything else, it's like, but once you figure out, like once you finally get a toehold in there, it is like you feel like you've accomplished something, and now it's like, well,
for 5 issues.
Yeah, I can't stop now, because if I stop now, then all this effort was for naught. And yeah, also you feel like if you're not keeping up with them, it's going to move real quickly away from you.
Yeah, then you're lost. Just give up.
Yeah, exactly. So
I collect X-Men. My words. The one I'm the most aggressively working on right now is X-Men. I am collecting 1 through 141, which is like right when the title changes from the X-Men to the Uncanny X-Men during Days of Future Past. So that's like my biggest thing. I have more X-Men books than any other book. I adore them. I'm not reading a single X-Men book right now. I am not touching any of that. It's too much. I'm like, none of the current stuff. Absolutely none of it. I tried picking up an X-Men 1, either the last X-Men 1 or the one beforehand, and I was just like, who are these people? What's happening?
Yep.
What? It was like in the middle of a conversation the run started. And I was like,
John's Comics with kids is sitting in the chat going,
I have the full intention to get there someday because I run a comic shop and my goal is to read every single book we carry. But like, wow, is that one kind of on the back burner until it's like collected and easier way and I can get through it? And
I've only been following it through the trades that they release, like the the Trials of X, Dawn of X, Reign of X, like and then the big event tentpole collections, which I think might be my favorite way to be following that many connected series at a time. It's almost like a Shonen Jump thing, where it's like, hey, here's just like a thick stack of comics from a bunch of different series that all sort of tie together but not really. But they're also like, Marvel's putting them out so slowly. Like I just completed a stack of them that's going to take me from like the first Hellfire Gala to the second Hellfire Gala. And the third one has already happened. And that was the one that everyone's been talking about online, which I think everyone has a general idea of what happened there. But it drives my co-host, Jamie, absolutely insane. He is the biggest X-Men fan I know. And he's like, you need to get current. We need to talk about this. I'm like, I'll be there in 2025, bud. Don't worry about it.
Is it just me, or are those Hellfire Galas happening like very frequently?
Too much.
Like, I feel like they're coming
It was
back.
twice in 1 year this year.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I thought they were supposed to be an annual event, but I thought they were quicker too. Yeah.
Annual, and like a year in comics is supposed to be like, what is it, like 20 months in like real time?
Right.
I forget what the thing is.
It jumped the shark when they started having Instagram comic influencers at the Hellfire Gala they held for real.
Yeah, I wanted to be there so bad. Oh,
I was just kind of like, I don't know if this is too much now. Like maybe it's just my pragmatism where I was like,
did you see the Uncanny Experience they're gonna do? That seems so cool.
No.
It's like in the middle of nowhere. Definitely go check it out. They have an Instagram page. You can get tickets. You'll basically go stay in like Xavier's mansion or whatever. And they have like I don't know if it's actually a Hellfire Gala. I think it's just a ball or whatever. But they have like a whole it's basically like a con, but it's X-Men themed and it's more like an experience. Chris Claremont's gonna be there. Like it sounds so cool.
I feel like this is exactly the sort of thing that someone who hosts a Marvel history podcast should be invited to and maybe flown out to for free. But that's just
putting it out there.
I'm just putting it out there.
Tickets are not cheap. That's why I have not gotten one. I want to say they're not crazy expensive. They have like a general admission, which I want to say is like $70. So like a con. And it's like 2 or 3 days. But they definitely have like VIP stuff and like after party stuff. And it looks so cool though.
I've tried Legion of Superheroes minimum 20 times. I can't get into that book. The names of the characters alone drive me nuts because like their names are their powers. Hey, it's Bouncing Boy. It's Triplicate Girl. Like it's so basic it drives me nuts. And I'm just like, haha, that's funny.
Yeah.
Waka.
They're from the future, Dan. You wouldn't understand. All right.
Matter Eater Lad was almost enough to get me on board. And then I was like, well, what's the deal with Matter Eater Lad? It's like, well, that's basically it. I'm like, okay. All right. Well, that was fun.
I think it's funny. I have the opposite reaction where I'm delighted by it.
Yeah. I assume that they have to have names like that because, it is a galactic organization, and so there's like hundreds of languages that their names have to be translated into.
So those are translation issues.
Yeah, you just got to keep it super basic.
How about you, Bryan? What was your next one?
Oh man, what do I got? Well, we were talking about ROM earlier, and I am a sucker for licensed comics. That's
I had
what
the
got
toy.
me in. Yeah, it's licensed comics that's what got me into reading comics. My first issue of a comic that I ever picked out myself personally was a Transformers comic. And so I think they're like an awesome gateway. I think no one thinks they're the best or the coolest, and they but I think you get some really great weird stories, and because no one's really expecting much from them, you have creators who just take these wild risks.
Bill
So
Mantlo.
yeah, Bill Mantlo or like Larry Hama on GI Joe. Like I will maintain that at least the first 50 issues of Marvel's GI Joe that Larry Hama was writing is like such a much better war comic than it had any right to be. It's like
The
it's a bunch of
silent
toys.
issue alone, and
Yes.
then there's the Invasion of the Pit one, or Springfield, where 30 people got killed from the Joe and Cobra teams.
Yep. Yeah.
Weird.
It's wild, and so one of the issues, one of the series that made a real impact on me during the pandemic that I picked up was Tom Scioli did a GoBots series for IDW.
Yes,
and I was just like, I mean, I had just gotten, I just read his Fantastic Four Grand Design, which I really liked. And then I was like, okay, what else has this guy done? And I started tracking it all down. It's like he did a GoBots comic. I'm like, okay, I'm a completist. I'm going to read his GoBots comic. And I can't even articulate why this thing is so amazing, but he just absolutely captures the feeling of being like 9 years old and playing with toys and just like letting your imagination run completely wild. But it's, I feel like it has not really gotten the credit that it deserves. I think probably because it is, well, first of all, a licensed comic, and second of all, a GoBots comic. But which is the bargain basement Transformers.
Daniel Warren Johnson Transformers got me excited.
Yeah, it did, and yeah, so that's it's something that is a recent comic that made an impression on me, and I think it made the impression on me because I didn't expect it to. It just like came out of nowhere and really, really grabbed me. So
I remember Jen was like super hooked on Transformers My Little Pony, the friendship
Friendship in Disguise.
Nice. She fucking loved that. She's like, I don't understand why I like this so much.
Yeah, it's terrific. Yeah.
She's also in her cat.
I thought it was COVID like making her snap finally, because she was like, I love this shit.
I really like Buffy and Doctor Who and like other things I'm I am a fan of. I can't speak tonight. I'm sorry. And so obviously I've explored things outside of the regular content to try and get more into it. And I'm the firm believer that people who create these like licensed works are either it's either awful and they're just doing it for a paycheck and they're just like, yeah, Buffy, stab vampire, done, got it. Or they are absolute huge fans. They're nerds and they have these stories that they thought of and they're so excited and they want to tell more tales. So it's one or the other. It's either this is the laziest thing you've ever heard and it's just really boring and just whatever. It's a cash grab, or it's amazing. Someone is over the moon about this and they want to tell you their story. It's their fanfic. They're so excited. Like it's one or the other.
Or like Tom Taylor doing Injustice, where it's like, oh, we're making a comic out of this stupid game.
Yeah.
That really barely has a story.
Better than has any right to be.
Yes, it really does.
Did you ever read his, like, I forget if it was a foreword or an afterword, but did you ever read his piece on that?
No.
He was like, I think it might have only been when the Omni came out, because I read it all and then I got the Omni later on, and he was like, wow, guys, like, this book did really well. I really liked it. It was really fun. He also has, like, a more in-depth understanding of, like, the DC universe than anyone I've ever known. Like, he is so character completely perfect. But he was just like, yeah, I was really excited when I found I was going to write Superman. Like, I was over the moon. It's, like, the biggest thing a comic writer could do. And then I found out I had to make him bad, and I was so sad, and I thought about not doing it. That was so cute. Just like,
yeah.
I just wanted to write Superman, guys, but I had to make him a bad guy. That's not Superman. Taylor's so cute.
The thing about Rom that I loved is how much they tied him into the universe, though, between the X-Men and Forge, and like, it was better than it had any right, because the toy sucked. Like literally, it was this immovable
Yeah.
plastic thing that made like red eyes and a glowing gun that went,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yep. And I don't think there were any accessories or anything for it, right? It was just like that action figure, and that was
That's it. There wasn't even a villain figure. It just was him.
Yep.
And like,
they wanted to make it like into a show and in like a bigger line of toys, right? But it just like failed pretty bad.
I think so. The only thing that was really successful about it was the comics line, and of course that was back in the days before they were thinking about stuff like there was no thought of like a collection or like reprinting these things. It's like you didn't collect like comic books into a volume. You didn't reprint these things. It's like you sold them on the newsstands, and 2 months later they were gone, and no one ever thought of them again. So it's like they have him crossing over with like every character in the Marvel universe. And then, which of course just creates all these impossible licensing challenges. Like, no one who had the Hasbro license could ever collect ROM because it's full of Marvel characters, and Marvel couldn't reprint any of that stuff because they didn't have the ROM license. So
same with Micronauts.
Yeah, exactly. So
circling back to like the beginning of the show, is this the first time you're getting a book bound?
No, I've gotten a fair number of them bound. So I have the 70s Marvel Battlestar Galactica series. I've got that bound. Shogun Warriors I've got bound. Micronauts is already bound. And then just like some other stuff, like there were a handful of Flaming Carrot issues that never wound up getting collected into a trade. So I got those collected. The Jam. What's
the Jam?
The Jam is this obscure 80s Canadian black and white comic about this incredibly street level hero. He's not even really a superhero. He's just like a guy who basically runs around in a jogging outfit that's like barely customized to be a costume. And he just goes around like not even solving street level crime, but just like being helpful. And it's just, but it's very strange.
It's so Canadian.
Yeah, it's wild. And then he winds up on being recruited as a private investigator. He winds up getting on the wrong side of the devil. It's real strange, and it's really wonderful. But yeah, a guy named Bernie Moreau was the writer and artist of it. Yeah. So
I wrote it down to research it later. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that like an underground book?
Yeah, I think it had like 3 or 4 different publishers, all of which I think are out of business now. But like Slave Labor Graphics published some of them.
Slave Labor.
Oh, that's still around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And boy, I couldn't even tell you who. Caliber Comics, I think, did a few of them. So yeah, it was a pretty weird assortment. Yep.
Got homework. Cool.
There you go. But yeah, I stopped doing. This is probably heretical to say, but like I stopped buying floppies a while ago just because like I like bookshelves, I like being able to have everything with the spines facing out, and like this is what I own and what I read. Oh, there you go. See, we're all in the same boat. But yeah, and so and also just like I found that when I had collections, I would read them more often. And I would never go back into my long boxes, and keeping them organized was a pain in the ass. So, so when I've been like slowly converting what few floppies I have left into bound collections. So that's pretty much it.
So does that mean that you're a reader and not a collector?
Yeah, I would say for the most part. I mean, I would say I definitely collect things. I'm a completist, but like I don't collect for value. Just to have the stuff. I went nuts during the pandemic, and just like
so did everybody else.
Yeah, my unread shelf. Well, I had like one unread shelf, and now I have like unread bookcases. So yeah, but
I did the opposite, but with Blu-ray movies.
Oh
in
yeah,
4K, where I just started going crazy buying stuff. Like I just got Weird Science in 4K yesterday. Did I need it? No, but it was from Arrow Video, so I was like, well, I have to have this.
Yep.
I have the Megan 4K.
Nice. I just got Swamp Thing in 4K.
Oh, the Arrow one, yes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that out. At least Blu-rays are becoming a cheaper hobby than they used to be, so that's nice for you. Congratulations.
I moved on to 4K, so it's more expensive.
You're just doing it to yourself.
They keep putting out new versions of Halloween, and I just keep buying them because I'm a dumb bitch.
I do keep thinking about getting like steelbooks of my favorites or something like that, but steelbooks get expensive. So
because I just ordered the Best Buy exclusive for the Predator movie that was on Hulu, Prey.
I haven't seen it. I heard it was good.
I love that.
I think that like all the streaming services have basically taught us to get physical media, like acquire it and preserve it, because you have no idea how long any of this stuff is ever going to be. You know, they may just randomly decide to get rid of 30% of their library because they don't want to pay residuals anymore. So,
well, yeah, my mentality is to like only get physical copies of my favorite things that I want to watch a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So like, it's my favorite movies, not just I'm not Dan who's hoarding movies upon movies upon movies.
But there's stuff I like.
I didn't think you were getting stuff you didn't like.
No, I have the. Did I need this? No. Did I want it? Yes. Like, did I need a 4K copy of RoboCop? No. Did I buy it? Yes.
Did you buy it for $1?
No. I walked into the store and said, bitches, leave. Amazon sent me 2 copies. Oh, God.
'Alright, who's next?
1100.
11, 12, 13, 14. I have under 30.
Oh.
I think I have under 20, but I know I have some around in the move.
It's Tessa's next pick.
Me? Okay. I do also have a bunch of people from the internet too saying things.
Yes. We'll do that after you do yours.
So I don't actually have my real copy near me, but the first like story and book I was reading was Robin Year One. So this is like the hardcover I got later on. They have for some reason they made a deluxe edition of Robin Year One for all one person who wanted it, I guess. There's also a Nightwing. I own that one, but this was like my first comic that I like read as a story, and Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty. So like great team. I've reread it a bunch of times. It's actually a really fun read. But yeah, this was like the first book that I grabbed at like a comic shop near me in like a dead mall. And I had a crush on the 1960s Robin, Burt Ward. But
the shorts.
I guess the short off. Well, this is me. Yeah, so I always was very into Robin. Nice. And I read this over and over and over and over again. And after this, I got like a different Robin graphic novel. And then I started delving into like Nightwing and stuff, and that became like a quick favorite. But yeah, this was like my first book that I was devouring and I loved, and it was like my first comic shop experience that wasn't horribly negative, but then unfortunately every time I went to that shop afterwards it was more negative to make up for it. But that was like my first love, you know, my first like real story and what got me actually into comics.
Did you want to go through your...
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like at the end, my bad. Boogie Gotham says Batman: The Long Halloween. Excellent pick.
Great
I do want to reread that one since I read that one more when I was like newer into comics. So I kind of want to delve back into that one again.
I watched the animated movie and I didn't love it.
Oh, I haven't seen the animated. I did pick up was it the noir version of it?
Oh yes.
Yeah, so it's no color, it's just the black and white line drawing. It's a controversial take. Tim Sale was really good at drawing. Like it's just gorgeous. It's so gorgeous to look at.
I do really love the colors in that book, though.
Oh, the color is fantastic. The color work is absolutely amazing.
But that monochromatic muted thing, very good at creating like very specific vibes.
Very much so. Yeah. So it's like it was really like I love the original version, and it was really cool to also read the black and white version, like to give you like a it felt like something that I already knew really well and I loved, but get a different take on it, which is really cool.
It's below my abilities to reach right now, but I have the noir version for Hush, which I really like because I've discovered that I like Jim Lee's work a lot more when it's not colored. I think his like inks are really strong.
Yeah.
And it's not that I think it is bad when it's colored. I think it's just more like normal comic art.
Yep.
And I think his stuff raw is very good. So that one was. Yeah. I also found it in a $5 bin. So like, cool. I'll take a Batman classic hardcover anytime.
Yes, please.
One of my best friends likes Warhammer and not comics, so he said Black Library Special Editions. Thank you, Colin. Double A Comics, fantastic on Instagram. Definitely check him out. He said Omega Men and Mr. Miracle by Tom King.
Ooh,
I agree. Tom King has direct ability to reach my heartstrings and play them. Human Target is beautiful. I have not finished it yet, so don't spoil it. But I love Tom King.
Ended well.
Oh, thank God. I love Greg Smallwood too, so I'm so happy that like put him way more on the map because swoon. Lou Capita Show said Spawn 5. That issue really solidified that Spawn was going to be the real deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have read no Spawn yet.
You know, the first year or two of Spawn was really, really exciting. I mean, honestly, I could do a whole thing on the first couple of years of Image Comics and how weird and exciting and good and bad it was. But like how just absolutely fresh it was and how much it pissed so many people off.
Frustrating. Especially when books didn't come out and like Todd McFarlane was calling them all into a room, screaming at them, going, I got retailers calling me. You know what they're saying? You're not putting your books out. Just me and Eric Larson. We're the only two.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
But you know what you're going to do once you guys go through all of the Marvel issues by month?
Well, that will never happen. I think at that point we just, our work here is done and we just, fade
DC by the decade.
Yeah. DC by the decade. Oh, good Lord. No, I would love, boy, not that I have time to do another podcast, but I would love to do some sort of like limited run coverage of like the first couple of years of Image because, I mean, they're right here in Portland now. So that's where they're
You mean when Rob Liefeld got fired? Quit. Fired.
That's an interesting story. Yeah, but I mean, just that it was really kind of the last time that it looked like, creators were really going to run the show. And also maybe the last time that comics were made specifically for kids, which also, pissed off the grown-up audience. So yeah, but there's a lot of cool stuff in there.
There's still a story I hope to God is true. And if I ever get to talk to Bob Layton, I want to ask him if it really happened. Supposedly when they were doing that Deathmate crossover with Valiant, he drove to Rob Liefeld's house and was sleeping on his lawn waiting for pages.
Wow.
Like, I hope to God that story is true because that's amazing if it really happened. And I talked to my friend who used to work with Rob at Extreme, and I was like, hey, do you know if this really happened? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like,
plead the fifth.
Yeah, because Rob paid him very well.
Sure.
Jose is bringing solid indies here. We got Black Sad, East of West, and Snapdragon.
Oh, East of West is good.
Very cool.
Medina Prime, Tony, he said, my first comic was Superman 75, and that started a lifelong friendship with Big Blue. That's adorable. And he did post a story about it. Nice. Fire Guy Ryan says Superman for all seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Echo Spider said, I Kill Giants. So deep.
That's
amazing.
So good.
I haven't read it.
The movie's good too.
I don't watch things. I'm bad. Jitter Book Perfume said, won't be able to make it, but Shade the Changing Man and Vampirilla.
Ooh, yeah.
Shade also was really good.
Yeah, she's really into like even like the what do they call it? The young animal stuff, like the Shade
the Changing Girl was good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dad of Dude, happy belated birthday. X-Men 94, I was entranced by the new series as a child. That's awesome. Modeler 12,000, in all caps, no punctuation, says, Spider-Man issues 1 to 100.
Yeah.
All right. And then last one is Crit Hit the Giant, who does a bunch of good stuff. His first issue of X-Men got me into comics. That's awesome.
Nice.
Which first issue of X-Men?
There's only been 7. Talking about the first 100 issues of Spider-Man, like I gotta second that. I think that has been, as we've been going through each month of Marvel Comics, like Amazing Spider-Man by far has been the most consistently entertaining and quality book in the entire lineup. Like it.
Not now.
Well, I'm not super current on where they're at right now, but like the first 30 or so issues, the Ditko issues, like have always been among my very favorite comics of all time. And then, as we knew we were coming to the end of the Ditko run, and I knew John Romita was going to be taken over. It's like, I love and respect John Romita, but I was like, oh, this is going to be a real step down. And he and Stan came in swinging as soon as they took the book over. And that first year and a half, when it's just Stan and John doing Amazing Spider-Man, they just do some of the best stuff. They reveal the Green Goblin, Mary Jane shows up, and just all these just amazing stories, like one into the next. Like really beautiful. I think it's 47 is a really beautiful issue with basically the whole story is pretty much Peter and Harry are taking MJ and Gwen out dancing, and like Craven shows up and causes havoc. But there's some of the most gorgeous John Romita art in there.
My favorite is when they get to the 70s and Peter is wearing peace beads and big medallion chain, and Harry's got a Fu Manchu,
very briefly, yes.
Oh my god, it's so entertaining because it so dates itself.
Yes.
And Harry looks so ridiculous with that Fu Manchu.
I mean, he already has a wild hairstyle to begin with, and the Fu Manchu is just a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
I actually feel like in the beginning when Romita first came on art duties, that for that first probably year or two, probably not 2 years, he was mimicking Ditko's style a bit, which makes sense because he's what set the bar for it. So I feel like in the beginning it was more so that, and then he came into his own kind of a little later down the line there.
I would agree with that, yeah. But I think there's something about, because he came out of the romance comics tradition, so even though he's trying to stay tonally similar to Ditko, I mean, no one else is Steve Ditko. He just brought that weird manic paranoid energy, and John he's just generally a more well-adjusted guy, and so but the women are beautiful in his comics, and that's when Stan was like, Peter's not a nerd anymore. He's going to college, he's growing up, he's gonna have
swinger.
Friends. Yeah, he's a swinger, baby. But yeah, he's gonna have a social life.
Is that those romance comics have the most beautiful interiors if people actually take the time to open them up.
100%.
Steranko does some beautiful stuff. Romita clearly does some beautiful stuff. They have.
I can go on about Steranko for a long time, especially on S.H.I.E.L.D.
It sucks that he kind of sucks as a human.
Yes.
But his interior work is so fun. The line work on those old comics is just beautiful. But
yeah, and the stuff that he knew how to do because he had a print background, he was able to do these weird effects that no one else was doing because he understood physically how these things would be printed. And he was like, if you do this in the way that I tell you to, it's going to achieve this effect that no one has seen in the comic. And
he also tried to throw an editor through a window for not paying him for writing, because he's like, well, no, the writing's in the page, because it was the wordless,
the silent 3 pages. Yeah.
Yes. So they weren't going to pay him. So he took the guy and held him out a window.
Unfortunately, sounds accurate.
And Miracle Man is based off of Steranko.
Or Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Sorry. Wrong.
Wrong Miracle. Yeah.
I was reading Miracle Man, the Silver Age recently, so
I'm literally just going back through the omnibus right now. Yeah.
Oh, you mean where it says, it doesn't say the writer's name, it just says by the writer?
The original writer. Yep.
Yeah, because Alan Moore took his name completely off of everything.
Yep.
Great run though. So one of the books for me that I have fond memories, and my copy is well read and beaten.
No.
Yeah.
That's a loved book. That's what I want to see.
Nice.
So I am one of the assholes that called in and voted to kill Jason Todd.
It's on you.
I called 47 times.
Wow.
My mom was furious.
I can imagine.
So what was that like? Did you press a button, or was there an operator, or how?
It was 2 different numbers.
One
to save, one to kill.
Yeah, but was it a robot? I'm assuming it was a human, right, back then? What happened?
It was basically a recording.
And
it would say, thank you for voting. And that was it. But it was just long enough to give you a minute, so they had to charge you the full $1.
Oh,
wild.
My God.
Yes.
Your mom should have been pissed at you. She had good reason. How old were you? Like a kid or like
9?
Oh my
Whoops.
God. So much money. Wow.
Yeah. There was a interesting conversation.
Yeah, it was like $2 or $3 a call, right?
It was $1.
$1 a call. Okay.
So it's $47.
Yeah.
No, Mom, you don't understand. It was for a comic book. I had to kill him.
We hate Jason Todd. He sucks.
That basically was the conversation. I was like, fucking. Well, I didn't say fucking. I was like, I hate him. He sucks.
Coming out like a baller of a 9-year-old. Hey, Mom, I just spent $50. This asshole sucks.
It basically was that, and then I was banished to my room for. Might as well have been the whole summer.
Yeah.
Then they killed him, and I was like, see, it worked.
It was all worth it.
And then Batman became emo for 3 years.
Yep. Well, I've got actually one to piggyback off of that exactly. So this is sort of a response to Death in the Family. But I don't know if you've ever read Brat Pack by Rick Veitch. So this is a book. It is a real vicious, mean, nasty parody of superhero comics. Veitch is, I think everyone probably knows him best from his Swamp Thing run. Yeah.
Swamp Thing.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, he was like the last man standing from the more beset Toddlebin era of Swamp Thing. Wound up leaving the book when they wouldn't let him do a Swamp Thing story about Swampy meeting Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And so he had a grudge against DC kind of going into that. And then he was just so disgusted by the whole idea of the 900 number, call in and murder Jason Todd, that he did this really vicious parody of the crass commercialism and superhero comics, and basically like having 4 heroes that are thinly veiled parodies of Batman, Wonder Woman, I think the Punisher, and Green Arrow. And they have these teen sidekicks, but they have them basically just so that they can merchandise them. And there's like just horrible abuse, and it's just a really nasty, vicious comic. I
might have to look that up because
like
the boys.
It was like the boys before the boys, honestly.
And
like
Irredeemable kind of is like the same way, where Mark Waid's like, let me write this, so now I'm writing it for, was it IDW, or I can't even remember.
Yeah, but there's some stuff that I'll see if I can find some of it. But
it might have been Dynamite.
Yeah, there's some stuff that is just so. It spoiler alert. It begins with the original Rat Pack, the teen sidekicks, being murdered by their arch enemy, and then so the story is about them recruiting new ones, and why they're doing it, and it's just it's just gross and horrible, and nasty, and I love it. So yeah, check it out. It's not for kids.
This book is horrible and it's bad and like this stuff is so disgusting. Check it out, guys.
It'll make you a worse person for reading it. So that's my promise.
Brat Pack will turn you into a brat.
Yep.
I have not read that. That's on my list now. All right.
There you go. Yeah, you'll think worse of me after you have read it.
Yeah, I'll slide your DMs and be like, "Hey, dude, can you just go ahead and block me for me?
What the fuck is wrong with you?" Yeah.
Hey, it was nice talking to you. By the way, here's a restraining order.
Yeah. Don't ever contact me again. We never knew each other.
Unfollow me, block me, whatever you got to do.
Next one up for me is Pride of Baghdad.
Oh yeah.
Because this was my first favorite comic. I was so blown away when I read this because it kind of subverted my expectations for what a comic should be. Bryan came on and Nico Hendrickon. Is that how you pronounce it? Hendrickon? I think so. Art absolutely stunning. If you've seen the meme of like a giraffe getting its head exploded, it's from this, but it's about the true story of when we bombed Baghdad in 2003, I think. But after that point, it goes. The Baghdad Zoo was involved in that, and after that, it goes through the scope of a pride of lions from the zoo and shows everything from their point of view. And it's very poignant, and it's beautiful, and it's just this one graphic novel. So if you somehow haven't read this, I definitely recommend it. It actually just started getting reprinted again a few months ago, so you can be able to find copies now.
Nice.
But this was my first favorite comic. It was the first time I read a book, and I was like, "Yep, this, whoo!" And then I was immediately into it. So it's very touching. It's very, very beautiful. Get me out of here.
Very cool.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. So one of them that I think affected me in my life, and you wouldn't think this when you see the cover. I don't have it in front of me. It's New Mutants 45. It has a beautiful portrait. Marvel in the 80s were doing those framed covers so Barry Windsor Smith did this beautiful Magic cover.
I think I remember this.
Corner box photo portrait of her, and inside the New Mutants are at a party at another school, and this other kid is a closeted mutant, and people find out, and he ends up hanging himself. So it's in it. Kitty Pryde, who was mean to the guy at the party, ends up doing this discussion in front of the two schools. And in it, she starts laying down every racial derogatory slur at the end.
That's the only reason I know about this book. I actually didn't even know that the kid hanged himself. I just knew what she did.
Yes.
There's
beautiful, beautiful Barry Windsor Smith cover. It's one of my favorite covers. So I had the weird moment of half of those words I heard people in my family use, which to me was normalized because I heard it all the time. And then I had that weird, oh my God, my parents are racists. And it was an aha moment for me as a developing 9 or 10-year-old at the time of holy shit, they're wrong. So I used it as a learning stepping stone, I guess you could say, because now I knew what they were doing wasn't normal. Me hearing it every day was normal, but it wasn't right, and it kind of caused a rift between myself and my parents at the time, because I'd hear those words again, and then I kind of start staring
at them. That's not cool.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you became a better person after you spent $50 calling it to kill a comic character.
It was around the same year, yeah. So it kind of started in with okay, this is how they were raised, not how I'm going to be raised. And
hell yeah.
It's one of those things where comics can kind of open up something. And I remember Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams talking about their Green Lantern, Hard Traveling Heroes, Green Arrow, how the issue about racism and drugs, Neil and Denny were listen, if we could get to one smart 8 or 9-year-old and maybe make them start thinking, then we did our job. Which those issues, they're kind of expensive, but they're possible to pick up, and I know they've been reprinted many times. Go check them out. Great team of O'Neil and Adams, and probably one of the better Green Arrow, Green Lantern runs. Just saying.
Yeah.
The beautiful Absolute, Brian?
Even. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Brian?
Oh, man.
Wait. As someone who likes to read over collect, do you like having, pretty versions of your collected books? Do you like absolutes and hardcovers and gilded pages?
Yeah, for the super special stuff, I'll have multiple versions of things. So I was talking about, Long Halloween, I've got the original and I've got the noir version. But I think I'm trying to think of what I probably have the most versions of at this point.
My favorites, I like to have a pretty hardcover that I love, and then a shitty trade I can lend out to try and give people the copy.
Totally.
Planetary by Warren Ellis, I have the most versions of.
What by Warren Ellis?
Planetary by Warren Ellis and
I knew that.
John Cassidy. I've got, I've had so many different versions of Squadron Supreme, and then the Walt Simonson run of Thor.
Yep.
The Epic collections, they kept the coloring and everything exactly how it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So the Epic Collections and Visionaries are the best versions, in my opinion, to get them because they did not retouch a damn thing.
Yeah, I have a complete run of the Epic Collections now, and I'm going to maintain that. And that's just something like,
holy shit.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, if part of it is for, what we do, for the show. It's like, oh, if Marvel Unlimited ever decides to just go away, at least we have, relatively affordable print versions of these things. But yeah, I mean, there's also just something to, having, if you buy into the idea that the story of the Marvel Universe is one consistent story that has lasted now, 62 years or whatever, then having it in these really nice, softcover trades, it's like, well, here's all of it, I mean, it's not all of it, but it's close enough. So yeah.
Some of those Epic Collections that are out of print are like expensive now.
Yeah,
the Dracula ones are great. I bought all of them.
Yep. Yeah, I hope now that I had always heard that the reason that things went out of print so quickly with Marvel was because Ike Perlmutter never wanted to pay for basically warehouse space. So I'm hoping now that he's gone, that attitude is going to change, and they have they've got a great distribution deal, with Penguin Random House. So like, there's no reason they can't, especially with something like the Epic Collections, like keep that stuff in print constantly. It's a perennial seller. So there's no reason not to. But let me see. Yeah.
Have you delved into like the Marvel Masterworks, not the old silver hardcovers, which I personally think are ugly, but fair if they're your taste. But they have like new trades that they're making now that are like $10 or something. Because the downside of Epic Collections is that it makes it hard for the 10-year-old who wants to read Spider-Man for the first time, but it's got like a $40 price tag.
Those were the Penguin classics they started putting out in bookstores.
They did those, and then they did, I think Tessa might be talking about is it the Mighty Marvel Masterworks? Yeah, where you get like 6 issues of Spider-Man or something like that. Yeah, those are great. Yeah, I mean, and you can and they've done a really good job of collecting things that I think still, like, the first 20 issues of Spider-Man are always going to be great. Like, it doesn't matter if you're reading them now or you're reading them 20 years ago or whatever. Like, they just hold up really, really well. So it's great when they find ways to make those accessible to younger readers, because I think they're a little wordy, but I think it still is great for kids. So
the most ingenious thing they ever did was put these in manga size runaways when because these sold like crazy when I was at Barnes and Noble because people thought they were manga.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah.
It still sells really well at my store in the regular sized ones because Bryan came
we never got the regular size ones. When they first came out, they only came out as this. So people would be walking by and they were right by the teen section again.
I just read that run for the first time. It's pretty good. I liked it way more than I thought it would have.
There's no books for kids anymore. There's no Power Pack. There's no Teen Titans when they're actually teens.
Yeah, I mean, the closest you get is like a Miles Morales or a
Miss Marvel.
But even then, that's quickly becoming kind of roped into the continuity, which is for an older reader, and it's unfortunate. But those Penguin Classic ones that they have at the bookstore,
they're beautiful.
They're great, and the price is pretty good. I got the Avengers one.
Yeah, I picked them up. I was an English major, and so I have I've got bookshelves full of Penguin Classics that I read for college, and it's just the idea of seeing like my Marvel comics collected with the same trade dress as David Copperfield's and Jane Eyre.
My Morrissey biography that was by Penguin Classics.
Nice.
I realized what a dick Morrissey was.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Complete segue. Are you gonna do any of the Star Wars stuff that was produced under Marvel on the podcast?
I think we're gonna have to, because, and I think we may do it as we've been struggling and have not figured out how to do the Conan stuff. Just because there's way too much of it, and
that's what I was thinking about Star Wars.
And none of us are particularly big Conan fans, but I would say at least 2/3 of us are, fairly decent Star Wars fans. The other thing that's great about the 70s Marvel Star Wars stuff is that they had, it starts out with an adaptation of the first Star Wars movie, and then they have like 3 years to kill before Empire Strikes Back comes out, and all they have to go on is what was in the first movie. So it just winds up being this wild romp with all the stuff that like now reads as wildly non-canonical, and like Luke and Leia stealing kisses every now and then, and just like it's so funny.
They also have like stunning interiors. The layouts are way ahead of the time. It's insane.
Yeah,
like the whole panels just be like silhouettes of Mandalorian or something.
And then you have Bill Sienkiewicz doing the interiors for the Dune adaptation.
Yep.
Which I managed to get all the copies of that for like $1 each.
Nice.
Good for you.
Wow, that sounded kind of sick. Good for you.
Good for you for grabbing them. Good for me for never making myself read Dune.
We'll turn you one day.
Yeah, they'll get you.
The Dune Over's coming back.
Am I up next? Where are we at? I lost track.
You think just did yours?
I think I must have. I was talking for a while. Someone else talked for a while.
I'm sorry. Here I was thinking you were next.
No, he just did his because we got into the whole.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't actually have any collected editions of this book somehow. But Saga is what got me into my comic shop. It's what got me my job. It's what got me a relationship I had for more than 5 years. It completely changed my life in every aspect because it changed what I was doing, where I was, started my entire career path. I would not be running a comic shop right now without it. It made me, so unfortunately, as a lady, going to comic shops beforehand didn't often go very well. Either they'd be extremely condescending and be like, oh, is this for your husband, your father, etc.? Yeah. Or they would be really creepy or try to touch me or follow me to my car. Unfortunately, just a lot of not great scenarios would happen.
Yeah.
So I went to a comic shop I'd never been to before, and they immediately were cool as hell. It's my comic shop. And welcomed me with comics and got me into Saga. And that was the first book on my pull list. And I had me going into comic shops all the time. So book is a very, very special place in my heart because it completely changed every aspect of my life. Literally everything.
I love that series, and the newer issues have not been as great. Or at least it's been slow. There is a character now in the series. Now, if I read the old issues and I see them, I immediately get disgusted because my ex, who I got into it, got the character tattooed on her and had Gambit do it after we broke up. So it's kind of weird.
I love how 50-50 shot of if you're gonna throw Gambit down during a show for tattooing your ex. Just roll the die. It might happen.
5 times. 4 times after we broke up. All my favorite characters, so it's weird.
Customer's a customer.
I know, and I
maybe he does a slightly worse job just on them.
But now when I see the stalk, I'm just like, ugh.
That's a cool character. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I mean Gambit did a good job on it. Just when I saw the thick legs on the Instagram story, I was like, and then right next to the nail biter tattoo.
My best friend does not read comics, and he doesn't like weird, gross monster things. So I love bringing up the stalk as often as I can and just being like, oh yeah, this lady, whenever he's describing a Tinder date he's going on or something, I'll be like, oh yeah, so tall, leggy, blonde, like this, and he'll just be like, oh god, why? No, a normal girl.
Saga probably has the most solid 50 issues. For an indie book.
Nope. Apparently you offended her.
That's it. I'm out of here. I'm off the show.
That was it.
He's my little man. I'm gonna get a tattoo of him with someone else. We're gonna get matches. He's my little guy.
Very cool.
My friend's I got her that in Lion Cat. So she's got the matching stuffies. Which I guess Fiona Staples did the voice of lying.
I believe that makes you the next victim.
Yeah. Oof. So this was a series that I started reading when my mom was in the hospital dying. So, Lock and Key. I read all of it while I was waiting for her to come out of surgery. It was weird because a lot of it deals with grief. And it's a beautiful horror book that like has so many twists and turns, but the first book is just, if you can make it past that to get to the fantasy and wonder, but the first book is like home invasions, death, grief,
like page 2 or something, like
rage drinking, alcoholism, and then like randomly like talking about how like the sister like may have tried to kill herself and she has all of these personal problems. It got me into Joe Hill's writing because I didn't really read Joe Hill before that. Gabriel Rodriguez's art took a while to get used to. I do like his art now. So every time I see this book, I'm kind of reminded of that moment and like powering through it and loving it, even though like this horrible thing was going on in the other room.
Yeah, I wish I understood how much the things I was reading when they were reading would affect me later on down the line. Because comics are such like I'm waiting in a hospital room, so I'm just going to go read something. And now every time I think about so many books, I'm just taken back to the time of when I was reading them.
Yeah. Yeah, that time and place thing. I mean, so many of the things I'm nostalgic for. I'm nostalgic because I read them in the comic shop that I basically grew up in, like in my hometown. And that was what formed that bond. But yeah, the opposite is absolutely true. If you read something great at a really rough time, you will carry that with you.
So next.
Well, let me see. I'm going to throw out a book that, relatively recent favorite, but Sex Criminals. By Fraction and Zdarsky. And I think this, I feel like this is another book that I feel the gender split on the folks who I know who like this most is pretty close to 50-50. And it's such a great magic trick what they pull off, where having a book called Sex Criminals that is legitimately filthy, like in many parts, but is also just like one of the most mature and well realized explorations of like relationships and how hard they are and how the people you love are the people who will drive you the craziest.
Dealing with mental health issues.
Mental health issues and everything else. And just, I feel like this is a book that I wish I had read. I wish it was around for me to have read when I was 20. And I feel like I would have been like such a much better person and honestly treated people better, as a result with like some of the things that I learned from having read it. I think, and then, on top of all that, the obvious friendship between Fraction and Zdarsky is just terrific. They're great. And as a bonus, like I've gotten to know Matt really well. He's done our show a bunch of times. He's
like my
another
favorite comic writer.
Oh, he's I will you'll be happy to hear that he is exactly as much of a sweetheart as you would hope he would be. In fact, probably more. Like he's an impossibly sweet person. He's like one of the nicest people I've ever met. And he's been really good to us. So that was just like the cherry on the sundae. But yeah, Sex Criminals,
like the only people when like I see him on a book, I'll just grab the book no matter what. Like even if I wouldn't otherwise like it based on the solicitation, doesn't matter. His name's on it. Let it go.
100%. I wish he was doing more stuff these days, but he's moved on to doing a lot of TV stuff, which is good for him, unless you're having a giant strike. In which case, you're maybe going slightly out of your tree, trying to figure out what to do. But yeah, I also agree. Like Fraction, even before I was lucky enough to meet him, like he was always his name's on it, I'm buying it, and I don't think I've ever been disappointed with that decision.
Yeah, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen is like one of my favorite books that I wouldn't really recommend to anyone else, where it's just like, this book's a little pretentious. It's very wordy. It relies on you kind of like enjoying Silver Age books, which not a lot of people who currently read comics do. And it's like, wow, this book was made for me. I absolutely love it. I don't buy a lot of paperbacks, especially from the big two, but there's no hardcover, so I bought multiple copies of it. And it's just, yeah, but this still isn't like a book I'm really going to recommend to people because it does not check a lot of other people's boxes. But
sure, yeah.
God, do I adore that book.
The first time he did our show, the very first question I asked him was, I was like, so, Matt, you had a career at Marvel Comics for about 10 years where you had pretty much worked almost exclusively for them. And then you left Marvel, you went to DC Comics, their chief rival. And the first book you did was Jimmy Olsen. What other ways do you compare yourself to Jack Kirby? And and he just like he like caught him flat-footed. He couldn't speak for a couple seconds, and then he's like, "You're the only person to ever call me out on that." And that was how it began. So
that's amazing. Wow. So jealous. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Sex Criminals is great. That was one of my like first comics that I was also reading.
Yeah,
like indie stuff, because it's easier for new people to get into.
Yep.
And I think I got into it when it was on. I want to say the first arc was over, but the first trade wasn't out yet. So I want to say like, I don't know, I read like 6 issues or something like that.
Nice.
That's when I was like hooked immediately and just like, all right, sold.
Yeah, I see what you're about to recommend, and I'm going to second this recommendation.
Yep. But yeah, and then my two worlds collided too, because back then I, didn't have a lot of money to buy a bunch of books. We had Fiona Staples do a not safe for work variant, and I was like, I'll order 2 of those, please. But yeah, obviously this book actually brought this to my shop. But to go back to Dan's reasoning of something sad happening. Well, first off, this book is just like poetry. I joined someone else's podcast, Comics We Love, and did a beautiful episode on this, and I definitely want to probably make a video on it or something to talk about it more. But this book goes beyond what you would expect a comic to. It is poetry. It is more than anything you would ever expect. And between the penultimate and final issue, my dog died, and I had a lot of issues trying to read for a while, because like maybe not everyone's pet means a lot to them, but my dog was literally the most important thing in the entire world to me. Nothing else came close, etc. And so the last issue of this, to not spoil it for other people, it does deal with death, and there is a quote that I do want to get tattooed on me, but it is beautiful, and it is the closest a book has ever come to making me cry. I was just sitting there, and I feel like it came at such a pivotal point of my grief of something that I loved and a past life of mine almost, where it made me view the end of something as more of a beautiful thing than more of a broken thing of, wow, I love the time I had. This was very beautiful and important, and this was everything to me. And I'm just so happy that I had this. I'm so appreciative. I'm so grateful, rather than I'm so mad it's over. I'm so upset this isn't here anymore. So I really think it helped turn that into more of a, obviously still heartbreaking thing of something you love, no longer being on this earth. So yes, obviously big sad. But yeah, now when I think about it, it's just like, of course I'm so sad that, he's not in my bed with me anymore or anything. But it's just, wow, I am so happy that this little man made my life so much better than I was before. So, that's very much like a pivotal point of when I was reading it, and this book is also already beautiful. I would recommend this to pretty much anyone.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And that was a beautiful, beautiful way to express why it is such a great book.
So,
Clunk.
I've talked about this book endlessly. Bliss. I have issues with my father and my legacy with him, and this book talks a lot about legacies. And also, like, it's kind of extra special now because the last episode we were together, we had Sean Lewis on. Tessa was and San Diego made the time to join us. and to be able to make it happen and have Jen on because she loves that book and have that moment and kind of get her mind off of her problems and have a good night. And Sean being such a fantastic open guest who talked about like everything, like his story about getting Spawn might be the greatest story. And his kid negging him for not writing Plastic Man.
What a legend.
He right away messaged afterward telling me how much he enjoyed being on and loved talking to us and wanted to come on again.
Any day.
I told him how like him coming on, how much it meant having it for Jen, and kind of told him what was going on. He's like, holy fuck, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, well, it really wasn't for public consumption because Tessa didn't even know until like way after. And I just told him like he made her have a great night to get away from her trouble, and like him coming on and doing that will always have a special spot for me because it was a fun night, and just seeing Jen laugh and kind of get it. And again, he was a funny fucking guest. Like he just...
It was such a fun episode. I was cackling. Yeah.
Like, I did a little, when I did the after show stuff, I put as one of the hashtags Sean Lewis for Plastic Man. And then like true to form, like the artist for his pirate bear or pirate shark
Viking, right?
Viking, the artist made a little trailer and was following all of us. But yeah, so like him coming on and doing that and me loving the book and Caitlin, like it means the world to me, and kind of helped me by him going through it with this book, dealing with his own daddy issues. Kind of helped me. And then again, like him coming on and Jen being on, doing all that, like meant the world to me. And also shout out to Mr. Rodney Barnes, for the Philadelphia writer, writing comment on her post saying that comics need Jen. He needs Jen. So
we all need Jen.
Yeah. She messaged me that she was crying reading it. So so that was my next book. Pick up Bliss if you haven't. Caitlin Yarsky's also like an amazing artist, and then finding out she'd never drawn a comic before working with him on the Coyotes. She just did little video game art, and that was what she did. So she's come a long way, especially seeing the Shazam. I think it was Night Terrors one she did. Like her art was fantastic in that. You're next.
Right on.
Dan, you win the award for the most awkward cutoff there. Of just yeah.
Sorry, I'm.
I guess I'll give you an excuse this one time.
Yeah. Huh? I'm gonna lighten the mood by talking about Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes.
This was the series that got me back into reading Marvel comics. I walked away from it, from Marvel, in the 90s because they seemed to be embarrassed to be publishing Marvel comics. And they were trying to do everything in their power to, change everything about that I'd liked about Marvel. Like by just handing over, all the Avengers characters to, Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee. And it's like, why don't you guys try to do something with these? And somehow it felt like, a clone saga that went on for 20 years, even though the 90s only lasted 10 years. So I'm not quite sure how that happened, but
it's when I quit Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. And and I was basically like, okay, well, I guess I'm done with Marvel comics. I'm probably getting out of superhero comics. I'm only going to read like indie stuff and other genre stuff. And then Bendis started doing Ultimate Spider-Man, and I had known him from doing some of his indie stuff like Jinx and Torso and Fire and things like that. And a friend of mine was like, "You should really read Ultimate Spider-Man. It's like a reboot of Spider-Man." I'm like, "Really?" Like, so first of all, it's not even the real Spider-Man. It's like a knockoff, and they're like, "No, it's like
Sam's Club brand."
Yeah, basically, it's the Great Value brand Spider-Man. They're like, "Just give it a shot. Just give it a shot." And it was great. Like, I feel like the stuff that I hated about the '90s, where they were just like everything crashing into each other's big cacophony of noise and and plot lines that went nowhere, and just throwing shit at a wall and seeing if it would stick. And by comparison, like Ultimate Spider-Man was very slow paced. I mean, like really decompressed. It's like
Bagley's art.
Yeah,
works so well.
It works so beautifully. It took him like 3 issues to even get a costume. It took him, like 5 issues to even get to the point where like Uncle Ben is shot by the burglar. Like, everything is just moving at this very relaxed pace.
Series won me over with Kingpin with the quips.
Yes, yeah, where he's like pulls out the note. It's like, wait, I prepared a statement. It's just, and then it's just like 20 fat jokes.
Yep.
But then the thing that actually won me over like completely on it was at the very end of that run, there is an issue where it is just Peter and MJ in his room.
Yep.
And he's telling her he's Spider-Man, and that's all the issue is. It's like 20 pages of that. And he made it work. He made it work so well. And I was like, okay, this Bryan Michael Bendis might be something special. And
Kitty Pryde stalks him during some of it.
That's right. Yeah. But it was just great. I mean, and I think it's, I have gotten myself in trouble for saying this, but I keep saying it anyway. Like I think after Stan Lee, Bryan Michael Bendis might be the most important writer in Marvel history because of what he did and when he did it. Marvel was in rough shape. It was coming out of bankruptcy. Like it was.
Well, Joe Quesada too. He took
Joe Quesada, and yeah, I think the combination of Bendis as kind of setting as a writer, and Quesada as a creative director. I think the combination of those two guys, they pulled it back from the brink. And it's just, I mean, it's the same kind of thing that Lee and Kirby did in, the late 50s, early 60s, when again, Marvel was in terrible shape, or the company that, would be called Marvel, is circling the drain. And they're like, well, let's just throw some shit at a wall and see if it sticks. And they did it. They pulled it back. And then, he also goes on to do probably my favorite run of Avengers ever, an amazing Daredevil series. So yeah, yep. So
you have Fire Guy Ryan singing your praises in the comments right now. He loves
Bendis
and he loves Ultimate Spidey. He's down here like yes.
Bendis is a good dude.
I think they've actually just convinced me to read Ultimate Spider-Man that I've had less than no interest in previously. So
it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. It's breezy, but it's also like it's a really, really character-driven book, and it's a fun like remix of the stuff you love about Spider-Man. Everything shows up there in one way or another, and usually in really interesting ways. So.
Literally, the most recent comment was, "I like this guy" from Fire Guy Ryan. Stamp of approval.
I like you too, Fire Guy Ryan.
I think my chat stopped working.
Note, check one.
I think my chat stopped working because I haven't had a chat thing show up since 9:02.
Oh yeah, I haven't either.
Oh my god, yeah, chat's been going off. It's actually like more active than usual, I think.
Hey, there we go.
Like it's not showing up at all. I don't know if there's something wrong with StreamYard. Because
yeah,
Scott just asked me if he got blocked.
Well, you know why you got blocked, Scott. We both know why you got blocked.
No, Scott said, "Hey Ryan," and also, "Woo."
You got blocked, Scott.
Oh yeah, like holy shit! There's a ton of comments here. What?
Wow. Sorry, everyone.
That you were
we haven't been ignoring you.
I was trying to be like, Jennifer's in there.
Is she? No, nothing's showing up on here.
Sorry, guys.
Actually, Dan just does not like you anymore. He's blocked so many of you guys. It's all damned. I'm so sorry, guys. Like I would obviously, shout you guys out. But.
Right. Dan's got mad with power. So
no, like this is weird.
while Dan stares at a screen and gets frustrated. Yeah, I have my tablet open so I can keep up on the chat usually. So
Okay.
I've been
Excellent.
keeping up there.
I'm going to remove myself real quick and see if it resets. All right.
All right. Well, we run the show now.
This is our show now.
Lock him out. Lock him out.
Yeah, quick. All right, guys, let's all talk shit about Dan. His cat seems cooler than he is. Am I right?
Everyone's cat seems cooler than they do, to be fair. So
there was a cat sticking her whole arm under my door.
Yeah.
I really hope he doesn't know how to get back in too, so it just ends up being us. That'd be very
yeah,
cool.
I hope he didn't leave his keys in here.
Nice, Tessa is prepared. That's right. I'm always down to talk shit about Dan. Everyone, tell me your secrets, real quick.
Well, do you have another one you want to talk about? You do, in hand and everything.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's right. I was thinking, hey Dan, are you done being a slacker now? Are you ready to be an actual host?
Well, it is my email name. Slacker boy.
Yeah, I guess I walked into that one too.
Holy shit! I am sorry, everybody, for missing all of these comments. There I am, like, oh, nobody's in this. Fuck. Damn. All right. Hi, everybody.
Whoops.
I'm Dr. Nick. Simpsons reference, if you didn't know. Okay, sorry.
Wow, now you're like being condescending and over-explaining things to them? Jesus, Dan, come on.
Ultimate Spider-Man was great.
Yeah, good stuff.
Where were we at?
I have Made in Korea by Jeremy Holt and George Stahl and I don't know if the letter or the editor, actually. I'm a slacker. This one is my signed copy. But Jeremy, they were my first interview on my channel. Oh. And they were so awesome. They followed me after I was talking about the book one day on Instagram. And one day on an Ask Me Anything, people were like, hey, like, what do you want to do, etc. And I was just like, man, I would love to do creator interviews. And Jeremy Hall slid in my DMs and they were like, I'm down. And I was like, no, you're not. Shut up. So I was already talking about how much I love this book. And they were like, literally, whenever you let me know. And so they were my first interview. They were so cool. They also just did The Great Gatsby from AWA. I met them in person like a year or so after the interview. And I was masked up at New York Comic Con. And so I assumed I didn't have a very identifiable hair color. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to awkwardly walk up and be like, hi, I'm Tessa. We did an interview at one point. But it said, they saw me and they went, ha! And they like came up and hugged me. And it was so sweet. So like, I don't know, this really like opened up the door to like what interactions with the creators can be like. And Jeremy Holt is such a phenomenal writer. I am here for anything they do. Phenomenal human being. Great to talk to. This book is great. It's definitely getting made into something. I have a bunch of copies. And it's definitely gonna be a book. My plan is to start doing like reviews on YouTube and like giving away books so people can read the book too. But I'm slow, so we'll see. But Jeremy Holt, absolutely amazing, and has really like changed my perspective and got me more excited about new books because now I love the interactions with creators and getting to get people to support artists is a big passion of mine now. So big recommend.
Very cool.
So next up for me is an indie book that came out from Boom, and Gambit actually helped the guy write this book with the Puerto Rico references. Gambit edited and worked on the follow-up book that is coming out from Boom. It is Chica Cabra by Tom Bieland. It is a beautiful family story that has to do with drama and also a teen girl who gets possessed by the Chupacabra.
Nice.
What a great solicitation.
It is very black and white, cartoony. The artist, writer came on the chat while we were doing the show, and he's going to come on to talk about the new book. But it's a very sweet book, and I remember we did it for book club, and Jen and I were both like, we fucking loved this book because we never talked. I'm like, what did you think? She's like, I fucking loved it.
It sounds like a book Jennifer would love.
You can find it on Amazon every now and again, or cheap graphic novels for about $9, and it's 200 pages.
Cool.
So, well worth reading. I loved it. It's so endearing. It's like that perfect like indie book cleanser until you get to the heavy stuff at the end. But it's lighthearted until it isn't. But I loved it. And it sounds like I like depressing books. Apparently, I do.
Sometimes being sad feels good.
And so that means sad to you sometimes.
Yeah.
But I want a book that can touch me. So
yeah.
Also, just so you know, I just went to go reach for my phone to check the time. I'm on my phone right now. So I was just like, oh no, where did I go? Oh God. All right.
Yeah. That's what happens when you hit the hour and a half mark. It's like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where am I? What's going on?
So we'll do like 2 more picks and then we'll wrap it up.
Sounds good. This is one of my very favorite books of all time. I don't recommend reading it in this format.
That's a thick boy.
Yeah, I have like the Bone 1-volume edition that's about this thick too, and it's just not the ideal way to do it. I have dainty little wrists, and
how is that spine not destroyed? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a little crinkly. I don't know if you can see it.
Great from here.
Yeah, but they have put it out in a series of like much slimmer volumes, and that's the way I would recommend it. But yeah, Stray Bullets, if you haven't read it, it's maybe my favorite crime drama comic of all time. It's like that and Criminal are like 1 and 1A. I can't really choose between them, but Stray Bullets is amazing. Each issue is a self-contained story, but all the stories are set in the same world, and they gradually reveal a bigger plot. They're told out of chronological order, so you really have to pay attention to the dates and kind of piece it all together. It doesn't really hand you anything, but it's just a really brilliant, like at times pretty intense. Just I don't know how to describe it otherwise. The tagline for the series was "The Innocence of Nihilism," which I think sums it up pretty well. But yeah, I thought I was not like a crime genre guy, and then I read Stray Bullets. I'm like, oh well, this is maybe my favorite comic of all time. So yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it has influenced a lot of my other favorite some of my favorite comics of all time, especially like I said, Criminal. I think what Brubaker and Phillips do now, I think Stray Bullets sort of paved the way for that. And it's also like it's crime drama, but it's not like noir-y. It's not derivative of, it just feels like a lot of it is just sort of kind of like almost like white trash crime drama. And which is funny to say, but like it really is sort of like that, just like drug deals being made in hotel rooms kind of thing. It feels like very Coen Brothers at times. So yeah, it's good stuff.
I feel like I'm going to get some hate for this because a lot of people do like the series, and I sure think it's mostly okay. But it sounds like a strictly better 100 Bullets.
I would say I liked maybe the first book or two of 100 Bullets, but I think Stray Bullets crushes 100 Bullets like a grape.
Like I said, I think it's okay. Like a few issues are pretty good. It really stuck hard to being like, no, we have to be 100 issues to go along with our title. But it's like, so much better if you didn't do that.
100 Bullets for me worked. The parts that worked for me worked because I love Eduardo Rizzo's art. I could look at his stuff all day long.
When they revealed the crime, I think that's when the book started to go down. Once you found out what the crime was that they committed.
It's like once you find out who killed Laura Palmer, like Twin Peaks is like, okay, well,
who killed?
Oh man, I love Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it really sucked the momentum out of it. But also, I know we're supposed to separate the art from the artist, but I'm not the biggest Bryan Azzarello fan as a person. So
does he suck? Because I hate the way he writes women, and he's the only person that I feel that way about. So I feel like I don't want to make that be a reason that I think someone might suck, but like, this is literally the only person
at the
that
convention
I hate
when he got called out about the Killing Joke Batman-Batgirl scene where he basically told
I knew that was a thing. Is there
fan
anything
to go
else
fuck himself.
Is there anything else other than that?
He got into it with some bloggers about them having an issue with the way he was writing Wonder Woman on the New 52 relaunch.
Okay. Yeah, because I do not like the way he writes women. He's literally the only writer I feel that way about.
Yeah, he also did, I want to say this was like early 2000s. He did a Luke Cage series with Rich Corbin doing the art. And Corbin, an artist I love. Unfortunately, it also turned out to be like maybe the most racist thing I've ever read in my life. Yeah, so it yeah, you know, just saying, it's like, hey, maybe this is a lot of smoke and there's no fire there, but I'm okay with.
We're justified at least.
Yeah.
David Lapham wrote one of the worst Batman storylines that I've ever read.
David Lapham as a mainstream comics writer, I don't like at all, but I love Stray Bullets. So yeah, it might be a case where he does one thing, but he does it extraordinarily well.
You know, that's better than the opposite.
Sure.
Well, to shift to something much more wholesome. This is my absolutely beautiful Showcase 79. Beautiful pipe cover. I love this cover. I think it's stunning. It's first appearance of Dolphin, who I adore. It's a beautiful Joshua Middleton cover. If you haven't seen that, I'm obsessed with Joshua Middleton.
Are you?
I know. There's no Middleton book I can really work in here, honestly. No, really. I'm obsessed with him. He's like one of my favorite parts of comics in general, but like there's nothing that's like sentimental or important or anything. I just sure do like his art. But this book, growing up, it was very much like I would always be more entranced by like the boy toys and the girl toys. Not that toys should be genderized, but is how the world kind of works. And so I'd always be like, ooh, cool, guns and comics. And my parents would be like, no, Barbie dolls in pink. And I'd be like, that's not cool. So growing up, my parents were really fans of me liking anything that wasn't, pink and sparkly. And this, my dad is a very strong force of everything in my life. I adore my dad. And he follows me on Instagram. And one day, someone was asking about books I really want. And I was like, oh yeah, here are the books I would want. I love this book. I think it's amazing. I would love to find a copy. I never can. And this was when I was still living with them, and I came home, and there's a package, and I was like, yeah, go ahead, open it up or whatever. And he had bought me like this Kia shoe, and it was like the first thing he bought me, and it was just like really a really sweet thing that I don't think he realized affected me as much as it did, where I was just like, my dad's okay with me now.
Oh.
It was just, he's so incredibly supportive at this point in my life where it's just like, I don't know, this is like, it's such a stupid like little gesture, not little because it was monetarily buying me like a really cool comic, but it was just, oh, here, I am proud of you and, support everything you're doing right now, and B, I specifically noticed something that you mentioned, and then I went and I did something specifically because of that, and I listen when you speak and I support what you're doing. Like, it was just so sweet. And so I usually have this one on the wall behind me. But yeah, it's like one of the books I'll just never get rid of because it's special to me.
Your dad sounds rad.
My dad is so cool.
What about his X-Men #1?
He tries his best. It's so cute.
What about his X-Men #1?
When I was, I did a post recently that was like, oh man, here's like a bunch of bronze keys. Like, this is what you get for your birthday or whatever. And I was like, what bronze keys would you include? My dad's like, X-Men 1, because he knows I like X-Men. It was just, he's so sweet, and he knows nothing, but he sure is like my proudest fan of being like, yeah, comics, woo!
Awesome.
I love him.
So, for a book that meant the world to me, because it kind of vindicated two characters that are jokes in the DC universe, Countdown to Infinite Crisis and Infinite Crisis. Ted Kord becomes serious in it. And he has this James Bond storyline in it. Spoilers, he gets shot in the head.
But he gets better.
But the reaction from Booster Gold wanting to avenge him and him going to all the heroes and being like, he went to you, you guys didn't believe him, you treated him like a joke, and like Booster Gold kind of like getting serious and getting in all their faces. Like I loved it, and the fact that he was trying to avenge his friend. And then we get Jaime now, our new Blue Beetle. Uh-oh. I somehow lost the...
Well, while you struggle, I can show the page of Blue Beetle and Booster Gold that Dan got me that's right behind me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was full screen. Yeah, there. Whoop. This is really hard to do backwards and behind me.
Sorry.
But that's Booster 35. I don't have that run collected, unfortunately, but I'm a big Booster Gold fan, so I got the Dan Jurgens hardcovers, and they're both signed. And yeah, low battery, leave me alone. And one of them's just regular signed, and one of them signed and sketched. And so this one has Booster Golds, and I want to get my second one to have not Blue Beetle, Skeets in it.
Oh, nice.
And Phil Menez's beautiful art doing the
I'm a beautiful
Blue
man.
Beetle, the Blue Beetle pages. So I really love that because they made them serious. I hated that Ted Cord died. But Team Blue and Gold lives.
Team Blue and Gold.
Also, forever the old Justice League International series and the One Punch Batman punching Guy Gardner in the face will forever never not be great. That's I'd say that's my last one.
All right. I think my last one is going to be Barry Windsor Smith's Monsters. So
it's a big boy.
It's a big boy. Original graphic novel was in the works for, I think, literally 30 years or something. Came out just a couple of years ago. I don't know if everyone knows the backstory on it, but it started out as a Hulk graphic novel that he had. It was when Jim Shooter was still running Marvel. Barry he created the whole thing. I think he had like literally penciled the whole thing and scripted it. And he's like, you can have this, you can publish this, but you can't change anything about it. Shooter was like, okay, yeah, I mean, we'll find a way to make this work. It was too intense for what Marvel was going to be able to do. It wound up, in a desk drawer somewhere, and it somehow the story gets sketchy here, but apparently Bill Mantlo got a look at it, possibly, and then wound up doing an issue of Hulk that had a lot of plot points that were very similar to what was in Barry Windsor Smith's Hulk graphic novel, and so that pissed off Barry, and he left, and he basically said, "I'm going to do this my own way." And he, for years, we had been told, it's like, "Yep, Barry Windsor Smith's working on this thing called Monsters. It's going to come out eventually." He swears that he's working on it. I don't think anyone really expected it to ever actually show up. And then it did. 1 year, it just like a couple years ago, out of the blue, Fantagraphics is like, Barry Windsor Smith finished Monsters, and it's going to be published later this year. And I picked it up and I read it, and I've never had the experience of reading something that was like, that you could tell was someone's magnum opus, like in the moment. But the work is just, I mean, you can't even really see the line work. Let me see if I can find a couple. It's just this really, it's a very grim story, but it is some of his best work. And it doesn't, you can see how it started out as a Hulk story with the serial numbers filed off, but it's just so like some of the work, the line work is some of the best stuff he's ever done. And just the fact that it finally came out, and he said after it came out and it won a couple Eisners, he's like, this is it. I'm done with comics. That was my last work. And for someone to basically go out at the absolute top of their game, coming out with their life's magnum opus and say, that's it. Is just, I've never seen that happen before. I've never seen that happen. And he pulled it off. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but yeah, it's stunning. It's a hard book. I wouldn't recommend reading it if you're not in a great headspace, but if you're ready for a bit of a rough ride,
a book that'll beat you up.
Yes, in good ways. So.
I've heard a lot of people. Also, I love how nonchalantly you were like, "Yeah, I want a couple Eisners." But I've heard that a lot of people, after reading the first time, will go back and read like the holidays on the specific holidays, which is kind of wild to me. I can't imagine being like, I'm at my family picnic, but hold on, I'm gonna go read this monstrous little part. But
it's like a perfect book to come out during COVID.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it felt very claustrophobic and just, ugh.
It seems like an interesting way to digest it. Like I do feel like there are a few books that really utilize the format of being periodicals well. And I know this one didn't come out in periodicals, but like many books of Violet Star, like each issue, there were like lifetimes in between. So it gave you time to process time, just like the characters in the book are processing time. So like, I feel like it doesn't happen often because mostly it's just like, it's just chapters broken up. It's still one story. But sometimes it's like, no, this is truly like a piece to be consumed and then again. And
yes.
I always find that fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I changed my mind literally last moment while you were on screen. And I can't believe that this one wasn't earlier in my stack. I talk about this book all the time. This is my favorite single issue, Batman Annual 2 from the Tom King run. This is a French hardcover of just this one issue. I do have it signed by Tom King and Lee Weeks. I'm obsessed with Lee Weeks. I'm obsessed with this issue. It's absolutely beautiful. But it is produced just in black and white. So it's just got Lee Weeks's ink washes. There we go. And Elizabeth Breitweiser does do an amazing job. She's actually my favorite colorist. But this book is so powerful without it. And I don't know if it speaks to how many times I've read this single issue. Or if it's just the fact that, I don't know, I took like 6 years of French when I was younger, but I can read this just fine. But it is absolutely, it is just beautiful. This is that splash page. It's so stunning. I buy this issue literally every time that I find it so that I can just give it to people. I've given this book away to so many people. My roommate she's not against comics. She just like hasn't really been exposed. I'm just like, read this. You think Tom King is funny? You see his little April Fool's sketches? Here, read this. This is so good. And I've gotten so many people into it because it's just, even if you don't like the Batman Tom King run. I mean, Dan, you don't like the Batman Tom King run. Do you like this issue? The date night? Or not the date night, the first date issue.
I try to forget that entire run, to be honest. Like, I despise it.
I love it, but this issue, I feel like everyone can like, because it is separate from everything else. You can plug it into any Batman run, any Batman universe. This is just an early experience of Batman with Catwoman. It's like a flashback, but it is absolutely beautiful. If you haven't read this, I highly suggest it. Obviously, I'm enamored by it. But like, it's so good. I'm obsessed with Lee Weeks, so I'm entirely biased. But this is the reason that like this was my gateway drug for him.
Nice.
And I was looking for this book for a very long time. But it's in French. It was made in France, it's not anywhere here or anything. So every time I would try to look for it, I could never find it. I could see it existing in like 3 Instagram posts and that was it. Yeah. Turns out I'm just an idiot and you can go to like ebay.fr and go to like French eBay. And so someone who has heard me be like, God, I want this book so much, just so many times was just like, here, I got this for you because you're an idiot and you don't know how to look for things in other countries. I was like, oh, sorry.
That's wild that it's only a French release. Like it's such a beautiful packaged book. Like I'm shocked that they would.
In France. They make like so many other hardcovers that they don't make in America. Like this is just one issue. Like they never do that. And like over there's quite a few that they do this with. But this is like this is like a prize piece of my collection. Like if tomorrow I'm like, oh man, I should go sell all my comics for money. Like I'm keeping this.
It's a gorgeous package. Yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I almost cried when I got it. And I'll go put it with my beloved Tom King Batman collection, Dan. Right up here. I do actually have like a separate one too. That's the Batman, Tom King, and Lee Weeks issues, so it's got a few of them, and I really like all of those issues. But
Nice.
this is like one that has like, I don't know, 4 issues. Yeah, look at me. I'm so good at numbers. 4 issues. Yeah.
My chat died again. I'm not sure
Maybe
what's
they
going
just
on.
don't like you, Dan. Maybe they're done. Maybe they heard you talk negatively about Tom King's Batman.
No, like it's been dead since I rebooted it before left and came back. I don't know what's going on with it, but like it's just not running. So I don't know if it's because the new Chrome updated before I went
at least, well, just so you know, everyone is telling me how right I am. John is saying the date night and the double date issues are both great. John has good taste. At least someone here does.
John's wrong.
Chaos in Comics. Tom King Batman is wonderful work. Poor Dan. Yeah, you guys got good taste. Thank you. I am working on making a video about why Tom King Batman slaps, and maybe that's exactly how I'll word it.
Why do I feel I'm gonna get like shaded in it?
Yeah. This video is made for one person.
Tom King Batman slaps Dan across the face.
I will say it is better like binge. The first time I was reading it, like I want to say maybe an arc in. I dropped it because I went too hard in the Rebirth run. I was like, whoa, I gotta dial it back. Like this is too much money on comics. And so I got rid of like more than half, and I got rid of Batman, and I was like, this is just like whatever. And then when I read it and binged it in like trades, I was like, what is wrong with me? This is so good. Like, so I do think it's one of those books that's just better binged.
So the one the focused on Catwoman where Batman's dead, it time jumps a lot. I can't remember the name of the series.
Killing Time?
No.
Batman and Catwoman?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that book is Batman and Catwoman. God, I can't think of the name.
Anyway, that one as single issues was maddening because of how much it jumped. But as a trade, like it read like 100 times better.
I haven't read it yet. I'm waiting to make that video and read this and Killing Time all together and like finish.
Yeah, as a trade, like where you can binge it and kind of like go at it because you had to keep going back to the other issue, going, wait, what the fuck?
Right.
But I love their daughter in it, Helena.
Mm-hmm. I haven't watched Mask of the Phantasm, so I feel like I might also want to do that before reading it.
Yeah, like they explain.
I know it's not integral, but I feel like I would just enjoy it more with that context.
Maybe the best Batman movie?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Have I seen any animated Batman movies? I've only started watching DC animated stuff within the last few months for the first time ever.
It is on
I watched Under the Red Hood. I'm working on getting through all of that right now. My hot take is that I'm kind of struggling through Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, yeah. I haven't gone back and watched it recently. I don't know how it holds up, but
it holds up very well in like vibe, but I think if you don't have the nostalgic ties to it, I feel like it should be like half the length in episodes.
Like a pacing thing?
I like Superman the Animated Series a lot more, actually. That one I found much more compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because Gilbert Gottfried's Mr. Mxyzptlk?
I'm only like 50 episodes into the first season because the first season is more than that. That's insane.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, those seasons were long.
Yeah, because I thought like the second and third season of Batman the Anime were actually the better episodes, especially when they started getting to the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil stuff where Ra's al Ghul shows up. Like,
I'm holding back my opinions until I do more, but it definitely I really like the feel of the show, like the art and the title cards are phenomenal.
But I feel like the Superman animated series, they knew what they were doing more by that time. Like they figured it out, so like it started like way better. The Krypton stuff's freaking phenomenal at the beginning of Superman.
I actually didn't realize that it came out after Batman.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very good at creating like a mood. But yeah, I feel like
Tessa's all about.
I would rather watch like 5-minute synopsises on the episodes than the actual episodes.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a YouTube video
now, right after my Tom King collection.
You'd be very popular on the internet, but that's okay. Also, the internet loves a woman with opinions on comics too. So, I mean, no matter what your opinion is, you're damned. So, don't worry about it.
You could have stopped at opinion.
Exactly.
So we're at the 2-hour mark. So I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm sorry I didn't get to more comments because I didn't see them.
He actually just doesn't care about you guys. I'm trying to shout people out here. You know, Gods and Monsters is my favorite DC animated movie. Check it out. That's from Bobby. MOTP definitely be best Batman movie. What is that?
Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, duh. The one I brought up? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Superman animated series is great. Not talked about nearly as often as Batman animated series. I agree. It's not that I think Batman animated series is bad. I just think that the Superman one is really good, and I wasn't anticipating that because everyone's got their cock out for Batman and not for Superman.
It was
excuse my vulgar language, but
it was 3.5 years before Superman came out, so like they had very much figured out what they were doing.
It felt so much like I mean, it was shorter. Like it felt like it was just like canceled and like pushed aside. No one talks about it. And I loved it. It is part of the thing that's really gotten me into like Superman recently. A lot of Chaos in Comics is saying how great the Tom King Batman minis are, the post Batman minis.
Yeah.
And he also said the one reason why it's so good is it gives people such crazy huge reactions. That's good. People have been having problems in other chats, so it's not just you. Someone said that was Bobby.
Good.
And someone else was talking about the Pride issue because of Kevin Conroy, the Batman one.
Oh yeah. Yep, that was a great issue.
Oh yeah, fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that gets you pretty caught up on chat.
Thank you. So don't really have anything coming up anytime real soon because this was the last thing I really had planned out, and by planned, like threw it together in a week. Less than that. Stay tuned on our socials for something coming up the first week of September with Bryan. So go ahead and follow Marvel by the Month. You'll probably see stuff getting spammed all over Instagram and other social media soon. And the first week of September, Tessa, like from the 6th to the 13th, might be throwing around some like just random shows that week. Just
I will have Ryan with me actually until exactly the 13th, so you can we can bully him into joining with me. Just throwing him right under the bus. You can have a 2-for-1 special.
I mean, he might as well have been there for our one episode.
Oh, Bryan, John is gonna go get monsters now because of you.
Hell yeah! Thanks, John.
It's a good one. It's not a quick read.
Nope, it's not. I'd say anyone who anyone who buys monsters and reads it and doesn't think it was worth it, I'll buy it back from you. You just have to track me down, which I'm not going to make easy for you.
You'll have to go through our Amazon link and buy it so that way I get a piece. Okay, it might be time. My cat just like went into his box and he dropped one. And
all right. On that note,
kick him out.
He's literally just sitting there staring at me now, like, yeah, that's right. That's what.
Yeah. Power move.
Get for sitting there for 2 hours, human, trying to eat in here.
Yep.
Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Bryan, for coming on and talking for hours about the stuff that we love.
It was great having you.
That was great being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Got the links to socials and for your website for Marvel by the Month. You do have Patreon episodes that are exclusive. I don't have Patreon. I just too lazy to set it up. I'll be honest. Since Tessa decided to call me out as being a slacker, which it's not wrong.
You called yourself out. You made that your email probably years ago.
Yeah, like 1997.
Yeah. So 1 me ago, you decided to call yourself out forever.
Actually, someone made it for me.
Someone also made my email for me.
Yeah.
So they made yours for me because you are a slacker, and my email is Cloud City Travels, and they were like, "What's something you like, Cloud City? All right, I got you. Here's an email."
I just dig Lando. That's why I liked it. Just being me and Lando and some Colt 45 works every time. So yeah, go ahead, follow, and just kind of watch out for the first week of September for random stuff that might happen. John keeps threatening that we're gonna do our movie show with Carlito and Greg. I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll join any show that has Greg. I'm only there for him and not you other losers. I'm just there for Greg.
I think talking about Guy Ritchie movie, so I don't know. It's Carlito's pick we've been waiting 3 months to do. That's right, Carlito. I'm giving you shit. I don't know if you're still in the chat, but I'm giving you shit, buddy. So anyway, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.